how can your opponent bluff on a board like this? These are under bluff spots because it's so easy for anyone to have the nuts. All right, Tommy. So you got a hand for us? Oh, this is the flush one, right?
Yes.
Yep. All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So we're playing at the Hustler Casino at the 5-5 game. The game is currently 7-handed. For this hand, I'm in the big blind. I have King 6 of clubs, and the action folds to the button, who opens to $10, which is a pretty light open for this game. And so, unsurprisingly, the small blind calls, and as do I. So we go 3 ways to the flop.
All right. So
I'm the effective stack.
Hold on a second.
Okay.
So, yes, I just want to say right off the bat here that this is strange right off the bat, right? It's a min raise on the button. Yeah. I've even talked about sometimes how if you're playing these $5 LA blind games, you can actually rope somebody in with, like, I wouldn't say a min raise, but if you go 15 with like aces or kings from the button, you'd be shocked at how much more action you'll get from people in the $5 blind, right? As opposed to going 20, which is like the standard open. You know?
Yeah.
So this is pretty interesting. I mean, how deep were you guys, by the way?
Yeah, so in this hand, I'm the effective stack at 1100.
Right.
The other 2 players have me covered by a lot.
Okay. I mean, you could pull like one of these blocker type 2009 pre-flop bluffs, but I'm not a huge fan of that at the stack depth. And I think you just have other better hands with playability to do this with when called. I think people don't just play a raise fold. You know, people are calling a lot, right? To 3 bets. So, I mean, obviously completing is fine, right? So,
yeah, in this game, people were calling 3 bets. Like, I don't think I ever saw someone fold to a 3 bet, like hardly ever. So I just opted to call in this case. Okay. Yeah, and then so we go to the flop.
Yep.
And it is 9-5 deuce, all clubs.
All right, so 9 of clubs, 5 of clubs, deuce of clubs. So you flop the second nut flush.
Yes.
Okay.
So then small blind checks.
Yep.
And I'm in the big blind, so I lead out for 20.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's very interesting. Your name is Tommy. Yeah. Yeah. So just a quick word on this. Okay. So you bet 20. I kind of like it. And of course, I don't really even consider this kind of a normal raised pot because of the min raise to 10. So the fact that you are going to get an auto C bet, like I don't necessarily buy. I also think you will actually get more action by coming out and leading here as opposed to like playing a check raise on a dynamic board where somebody might even fold like red 8s or something. They'll just go bet fold. One of the original OG sort of things that I've talked about, now obviously you have the second nut flush, is when you flop the nut flush fast playing it, because you will get infinite action from a lot of hands, whereas if you just sort of raise later on, even the second nut flush will go into a check call shell. I mean, this is in essence like the nut flush to me here, like in the sense that the players at this level, especially if you start putting in money now, I mean, there's just no way that you're going to fold if somebody puts pressure on you on the flop. I mean, if someone puts pressure on you on the flop, I like this as much as having the nut flush because no one really fast plays the nut flush. So you can sort of look at it down the line. You're just getting a lot of value from worse flushes, you know? So you bet 20,
right? Yeah,
okay?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I bet the 20.
Yeah.
And then the button calls.
Okay.
And then the small blind goes for the check raise up to 60.
Wow. Okay. Raises to 60. Yeah. All right. So right off the bat here, and that's kind of a small raise too, because.
Right. Because of the button. Yeah.
Well, it's just like, I mean, so 20 call, and then he just makes it 3x here.
Yeah.
I think that, like I said, I just think that I'm going to play that. Now, if you had the queen high flush, or if you flopped a different flush, like say you had the jack high flush, I think it's different. Now you would probably call down or see what he does, but I'm going to play this. And by the way, I've played several sessions of Hustler 5-5 late at night recently, right? I just played because I was doing the commentary for the Hustler live stream on Friday, and then I did the turnaround, and then I played on the lodge on Saturday. But I'm going to play this like the nut flush, meaning that don't buy that someone's going to fast play it. So I'll just 3-bet now. And I'm just not concerned. And if the guy has the nut flush, so be it. I mean, you guys are 1100 deep. So
Right.
what? It's going to be so infrequent. So I 3-bet here for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you 3-bet here, what sizing do you think you would use?
I would just go. So it goes 20 call, and you let out 2. I would go to like you guys start with 1100. I'd go to like 225. I assume the button would fold, and then he calls, and the pot's going to be like 500, and then you can probably go 300, and then you can probably get the rest of the money in on the river with a half pot size bet. So that's what I would be thinking. It would also be interesting though if, like, for example, I don't know if this is going to happen. I don't think it does, but if small blind check raise to 16, you made it like 225, and then like the button like called, unless he was like insane where he was just calling with the naked ace of clubs, that would be scary to a check raise 3-bet, but I'd go 225 here.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was I just called the bet. I was thinking about raising a little bit, but I wanted, to keep the possibility of, I guess, for the button coming along as well.
Why you want to give him? You want to give him a shot with the ace of clubs too? I mean, what is he coming along with? Just, I mean, I'm just curious.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's a good point, but I mean, because the club, like at least on the turn, like there's not going to be a club on the turn, like most of the time. So
yeah,
I'm not,
it's just one of these things. I don't want to
be like afraid of like,
and again, it's again, one of these things where I don't know if your plan is by calling that you're going to raise the turn, but take a look at like, what is stronger in someone's mind if you call the check raise and then raise the turn, or if you just make a small 3-bet now on the flop? No, I mean, I'm asking you. What do you think is stronger? You don't want to look strong,
definitely the 3-bet on the flop.
You think so? I think that if you call the check raise and then raise a blank turn, you don't think that's stronger than making a small 3-bet on the flop?
Well, I mean, if it's a small 3-bet on the flop, but because after someone check raises the flop, to raise into them again, I don't know, that looks pretty strong to me, because it's pretty rare that I'll see 3-bets on the flop just in general.
Well, I mean, you're right there. I mean, yes, it is rare, but I'm just saying that, if you call a check raise and then raise the turn on a blank, like that, this is where I go into like why you should be fast playing the nut flush, which I sort of put your hand as the equivalent, because let's say, for example, you had the nut flush here and you did that, you called and then you raised the turn. Now every other flush is just going to go into a check call shell. Whereas you would get most of them, a lot of the money, and somebody might just get it in on the flop. I mean, that is my whole contention with this whole thing. It doesn't happen all that often. Yes, you are right that the check raise is, 3-betting a check raise is somewhat interesting because it's almost like a limp pot, right? It's almost like a limp pot. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so you call, and then what happens?
Yeah. So I ended up calling, and then the turn was...
So what happened? Did the button call?
Yeah. Oh, no, so the button folded. So it's just me and the small blind.
Okay, so...
And 170.
170, okay. Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So in the turn's about like pretty much the worst card. It's the queen of clubs. So
surprising when people say yes, it's true when you flop a flush, right? There's only 7 flush cards instead of 9. But when you start to look at, sometimes people get scared. I mean, there's going to be another 9 board pairing cards and then 10 moving to the river. So the chances actually are better that the board does not run out blank blank. What I'm saying is there's more of a chance that another club will come or the board will pair by the river than it running out blank blank, which is another thing to think about that I think people will underestimate a little bit. I'm not overly concerned though if I'm you, because like I said, like what is this guy just, is he check raising with just the naked ace of clubs? I mean, maybe it's possible, but it just sucks for you if he had some other, if he flopped a small flush
Right.
or something like that.
Right. Yeah. So that's what I was thinking, because after the turn comes out, because he check raised the flop, right, and then on the flop or on the turn he checks to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of what you're saying. If he had like a weaker, like a lower card flush, that maybe he flopped. Because now I was
Right.
thinking that he wasn't wanting to continue betting. So he checks to me, and then I bet 125.
So okay, so I was gonna say this is an interesting point here for you too, right? So he checks to you, and I would say bet small. I mean, you don't want him to fold like the flop 10 high flush. 125 might be a little bit large now on a 4 flush board. Also, too, you want to make sure that sets and stuff will call. I would probably go 60 to 65 here, to be perfectly honest with you, and get all those hands, because I don't want it like some hero flushing hand to fold. But I mean, 125 on a 4 flush with the second nut flush is. I mean, basically, you're saying, all right, well, you think he flopped a jack or a 10 high flush and he's going to call down.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, the chances of that are pretty unlikely now that there's a 4 flush out there. But okay, so you bet 125, right?
Yeah, I bet 125, and he called.
So small blind calls.
Yes.
So now the pot is what, 320?
So 420.
Oh, 420, my bad. And you guys have like what, maybe like 800 or 900 left, something like that?
Yeah.
Okay. So 9 of clubs, 5 of clubs, deuce of clubs, queen of clubs. You've got king 6 of clubs, the big blind on a min raise from the button. And then the small blind check raises the flop. You just call. Button gets out of the way. Now we see a 4th club on turn. And then a check. You bet 125 and a 170. He calls. Pot's 420. Okay. Now on the river.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. So the river, this time it's a brick. It's the 3 of diamonds. And then the small blind checks to me again.
Okay.
So I think here is definitely a bet that I believe I sized much too large. So at this point there's 420 in the pot, and I bet 300.
Oh, that's way too big.
I think no matter what he actually has, it's way too big, because we want to keep targeting the smaller flushes.
Well, if you have the king high flush, so you don't have the ace, and I guess once in a while he could be sandbagging, but you don't have the ace. So if he doesn't have the ace and you have the king, like he's just like, if he has the jack or the 10, like he's losing to like 2 hands, and I don't think that you're gonna get calls by sets and stuff here too. I would have bet like 125 to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Because that's kind of what I was thinking, that especially because after he checked the turn, and then I guess after he checked the river too, I was really thinking that he wouldn't be having the ace. But at the same time, betting smaller would have been better to get calls from more of the marginal hands.
So you have what, like 550 or 600 behind now or something like that after you bet the 300?
After the 300 bet, I think it's like a little bit over 600, like 620-ish.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and what happens?
So after that, he check raised me again, then he goes all in.
Oh, wow. So small blind moves all in, so it's what, 500 for you to call? Something like that?
Yeah, it's about 600 more.
600. Well,
a little over 600.
I'm doing some math. So it would be like 900 total. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So like maybe 900. So hero bets 300. Small blind, we'll say like 900. I mean, this is not even close. I mean, it's just a snap fold all day long. I mean, however he played it, he's got the ace of clubs. Here's the thing: you can't. How can your opponent bluff on a board like this? These are under bluff spots because it's so easy for anyone to have the nuts. So how is your opponent going to bluff here when, if he doesn't have the ace of clubs, you could have it? There's no straight flush draw out there, and there's no the board didn't pair. So how can it's just impossible to bluff here. Yeah, I mean, I've seen it like once in a great while when someone doesn't think that someone had played a hand this way, but you haven't really played it like you fast played the nut flush. You bet and called a check raise. You so easily could have the ace of clubs here. So, I mean, and you bet large at the end. You bet large. You bet 3 into 420. So, I mean, the pot's going to be what, 1,600, 600, 600 to call, right? I mean, this is.
Yeah.
I mean, right? I mean, am I seeing something? There's no straight flush and there's no board pair, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really just the ace of clubs, but I know because I just the one thing I just couldn't get past was how he played the hand up to that point, and I was thinking that like it wouldn't make much sense for him to be checking like specifically on the turn, checking to me on the turn without having like if he did have the ace of clubs.
Why is that? If he check raised the flop with the stiff ace of clubs, right? And then he made it on the turn, that's very common for people to do that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do people in the live chat, they must be trolling snap call unless you're a nit. There's 4 clubs out there. The board is 9-5 deuce with 3 clubs. The turn's the queen of clubs. The guy has only the king high flush. I don't. What are you talking about? I don't know. I mean, it's not even for me. It's not even close. What ended up happening here?
Mm-hmm. Well, I ended up thinking about it for a while, and unfortunately, I did end up calling.
Oh no. Oh
no. And he had 2 clubs from the start. He had the ace high flush flopped.
So he flopped the ace high flush. Wow, what was his hand?
Yeah, it was ace 8.
So small blind has ace of clubs, 8 of clubs. Well, it's really interesting that he fast played it. I mean, so he would have gotten all my money, but in a different way. Except for the fact that if I 3-bet the flop and he slow played, I would have checked back turn. And that's one of the things that people won't do. Like what you'll see is a guy will fast play the ace high flush like by check raise, and then you 3-bet, and then he'll just call, and then you run into this like board pair on the turn, or 4th club comes out, and then it just goes check check. But again, like you can't really bluff in this spot. No one can bluff. How can your opponent bluff here when anyone can have the ace of clubs in essence what is almost like a bomb pot because of the min raise?
Right. Yeah.
Like people just have so many hands here. I mean, you're going to complete with probably every single combo of ace X off, right? Getting probably with a button min open and a small blind. You could literally have ace of clubs X, him 2. I mean, there's so many hands. So it's just, I mean, 9-5 deuce, all clubs, turns a queen of clubs, rivers 3 of diamonds. So that's really interesting, though, that he flopped the flush. But I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button and be sure to subscribe to this channel down below. And to get more live cash game, no limit training, head over to crushlivepoker.com and you can use the code YTA400 to get the first 30 days for free.